1,000 horsepower, 1,000 kilowatt hours of battery capacity, 50 machines, 19 years and 10 awards. It's all a numbers game in 2025 as we celebrate 19 years of autoX.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kings and queens from across the land and across the sea, I would like to introduce you to the marvelous, the magnificent, the talented and spiritually gifted, Jasmine J. Walker.
I put my mind to it, then I got my pen and put my grind to it. Never easy, it was hard from the get-go.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go ahead, there's some of you here who might know what we're here to do and what our processes are, but many of you might not and you might have some questions. Well, allow me to clear the air. What is the best of 2025? Well, the aim here is to select a definitive list of top 10 machines launched in the past year, and we do this by gathering all the machines that we can, well, as many as we can get our hands on anyway, and test them to near destruction in order to choose the best of the year. How do we choose the best of 2025? We evaluate every machine on quality, comfort, ride, handling, refinement, design, drivetrain, practicality and value for money. Plus, we rate a vehicle's X factor, that special something that a car or bike brings to the table, which just pulls at your heartstrings a little bit more than its competition. In addition, a lap time provides a uniform method to determine all the dynamic factors of a vehicle such as power, high speed, stability, handling and braking.
It's got those inherent VW group chassis dynamics. You can sit low in the car, you've got the perfect driving position, you can throw it around. It's got a 1-liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, so it doesn't have oodles of power, but it's free revving, the gearbox is good, the chassis works with you. This is a momentum car. You want to carry as much momentum through the flowing corners of the short loop of the BIC as possible, and this is a car that works with you. It's a car that's really fun to drive and a fun car to throw around the racetrack.
That 1-liter automatic combination, well, the gear shifts are quite quick, it is quite intuitive, and actually in some areas it feels better than a DCT because it doesn't have those usual DCT drawbacks in the sense it's not jerky. So I really enjoyed driving the Kylaq, even on the road and on the track also it was phenomenal.
It actually drives really well. It doesn't roll around as much as you think. It handles pretty well. The only thing is I turned the ESC and the traction control off, but it doesn't actually really fully go off. It says it's off, but I still felt it cutting in. So that electronic safety blanket is still there, which actually for the road and for most drivers is probably a good thing. And I'm really impressed with the Kia Syros.
There is a lot of space, a lot of creature comforts, and it actually is built really well. The build quality is really phenomenal. The problem is the exterior, because not everyone likes that quirky design, and even on the track it was great fun to drive. Of course, it is a tall boy design, so it tends to roll a little bit more than, let's say, a Kylaq.
On the track, and when you push it, bear in mind that this particular car, wherever it's come from, the rear tires are completely short. It feels heavy, it rolls around like crazy, it feels like you can't control its mass, you certainly can't put the power down, the brakes feel kind of spongy. I don't know again if it's this particular car, but it just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence when you push it. I'm sure in a straight line it's fine, and on the road it's probably okay, but the purpose of this test is to push these cars beyond their limits a little bit and beyond their comfort zone to get a sense of the engineering underneath, and this one does not inspire confidence, at least when you push it, at least this particular Harrier.ev.
Comes with all-wheel drive, QWD as per Tata speak, because that's quad wheel drive, so it has got an induction motor at the front, a PMS motor at the back, produces over 300 bhp, a lot of power. It does 0 to 100 in 6.3 seconds, so in a straight line it is quite exciting. And inside also it is feature loaded. From the outside it looks like a proper SUV, so there is a lot going for it. On the road the ride quality is phenomenal. Like I said, it looks like a proper SUV, and again, a lot of features. But if you want an electric SUV that can do everything on the road, especially, it has the performance, it has the comfort, it has a lot of features. So I think the Harrier.ev is a great choice.
I've just gotten out before this car from the Kia Carens Clavis EV, and a lot of the underpinnings in these two cars are the same, but because that car is a little bit taller, it makes all the difference when you're pushing it. So one of the reasons why, again, we do this test where we push these cars beyond their comfort zone is because things like chassis dynamics, things like center of gravity, things like center of mass, things like weight distribution, those really matter. So they may not matter to you on a daily basis when you're driving on the highway, but when you need to make an emergency evasive maneuver, then stuff like that comes into play. So this car, because the center of gravity is lower than the Kia, it feels really, really good. It feels much more controllable. It feels like an EV that is progressive and an EV that you can push on the road, on the racetrack, and really get a feel for it from behind the wheel.
On the face of it, it doesn't look very exciting because it just builds on the tried and tested formula of your regular Creta. So it looks exactly the same apart from the green number plate. It just looks very regular, very plain Jane, very vanilla in that respect. But again, when you put it on the track, that's when the engineering comes to the fore. And the Creta, in terms of its lap time, in terms of how it drives, how it feels, the electronics, the steering, everything on that car is very progressive, and you can feel that it is a well-engineered product. Of course, out on public roads, the range is not that much, especially compared to a Mahindra or a Tata, but overall, it is a phenomenal package. And if you want a fuss-free electric vehicle, I think the Creta does a really good job.
When you take it out onto a racetrack and you push it, what really surprises me is how good these modern Maruti chassis are. The front end of this car feels really sharp. I mean, it just dives into a corner and the whole car feels sorted and feels really, really good when you push it.
The Victoris is quite impressive because it builds on the success formula of the Gran Vitara, but it also addresses all the issues that we had with the Gran Vitara. So the interior is better. There are a lot more features now. It gets ADAS as well. And on top of that, it also drives really sharp. I mean, this handling is sharper compared to the Gran Vitara. And overall, it feels like a more involving car to drive. The only problem is probably the engine. Well, it's still a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated petrol unit. It's lacking outright power. And a turbo petrol would have been a preferred choice because in this segment, you have the Cretas, you have the Seltos, you have the Volkswagens and Skoda. All of them get turbo petrol powertrain options. Overall, a very well-rounded package.
What a machine. The Audi RS Q8 is essentially a Lamborghini Urus Performante in a slightly more subdued everyday suit. As an everyday supercar that is usable, that can put the power down, this thing is fantastic. And even on track, it is telepathic. It turns into a corner even while you've looked at the apex. It rotates at mid-corner and it powers out at corner exit. This is fantastic.
The RS Q8 is simply mind-boggling. The performance is out of this world. It drives like a sports car around corners in a straight line, and even in everyday usage, it is the perfect SUV for all kinds of purpose. And on top of that, you know, when you look at it, it is quite expensive, but if you think about it, it's just an Urus Performante at half the price.
I don't know why it's called a turbo because it's an EV, but I can tell you why it potentially could be referred to as a turbo, because it has the equivalent of 630 horsepower and over 1100 Nm of torque, which means that this could well be one of the fastest cars that we've got here today. Whenever Porsche does something, they do it absolutely brilliantly, and they've done that on the EV front, certainly with the Porsche Macan EV.
It's a big and heavy electric vehicle, but you also have to remember that it's a Porsche. So around the track, it was phenomenal to drive. It has got mad power. It can do 0 to 100 in just around 3.3 seconds. So that is really quick in a straight line. But even around corners and quick change of direction, you don't really feel the weight because it has low CG. And like I said, it's a Porsche. They sprinkle their magic on all their vehicles, so it definitely feels like a Porsche in that regard. The steering is direct and the way it changes direction, like I already said, it feels very taut. There is immense grip from its all-wheel drive system, and even in terms of its outright lap times, well, it is really impressive.
So I've just finished watching the Dale Earnhardt documentary on Amazon Prime, and he was known as the Intimidator. And I feel like if Dale Earnhardt was alive and he drove a German super saloon, he would drive the brand new BMW M5, because this thing looks and feels like the Intimidator. It's got 717 combined horsepower between the 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 and the electric motor, and it is intimidating inside, out, and in the driver's seat. It's just got crazy amounts of power. But for me, it feels like this is more a super saloon and a cruiser to be used on the Autobahn than it is on the track, because it is heavy. And to put the power down with the weight, you just can't defy the laws of physics. So it's got the electronics, it's got the BMW driving dynamics. But for me, when you're pushing it on a racetrack, it just feels that little bit heavy.
Well, it is quite good on the road because it has got that hybrid mode and you can drive it daily. It is quite practical as well, and it is ultimately a 5 Series. But on the track, it definitely felt a lot heavy. And yes, it has two-wheel drive. Yes, it feels like a proper M car. When you're in two-wheel drive, it also lets the tail out. But overall, it somehow feels ungainly. And when you're absolutely pushing it, well, that's when it kind of doesn't get you those thrills that you expect from an M car.
And this thing looks really aggressive. It looks the part, and on the track, it drives just the way it looks. You have to muscle it. The 4MATIC system means that it just yanks it out of corners. So you plant your foot and you let the car sort itself out. Now, I don't have to tell you that Range Rovers are super special. Well, this, at least for the Range Rover Sport, is super extra special. I mean, just look at it from the outside. It's got this burnt burgundy sort of matte paint. It's got this exposed carbon fiber trim. It says SV. It's subtle and subdued and loud at the same time, and that's the beauty of Range Rover. From behind the wheel, this thing just shouts at you. The 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 from BMW that produces in excess of 600 horsepower just growls at you and it eggs you on. And the chassis is actually quite willing. Pitch it into the corner and the rear end comes out, and it's entertaining and it's fun. And I really don't know how they do it. How can they make a car that's so big, so comfortable, so luxurious? Potentially it can even go off-roading, and then you can do that on a racetrack. It's crazy.
It has got crazy amounts of power and it drives really well. But the moment you put it in that SV mode, well, everything loosens up in the sense, no traction control, and it becomes quite a beast to handle. So I figured it out on the track. I was driving it fast and the rear would just step out on me all the time. So you have to be really careful with that car. The only shame is the fact that it costs nearly 3 crores.
You might ask, what the hell are we doing on a racetrack? Well, the key is this is the E450. That means it's got a 3-cylinder turbocharged inline petrol engine that produces 375 horsepower, and it's sending power to all 4 wheels. So it's actually the perfect dual purpose car. It's the perfect luxury car during the week. You can sit in the back in all its opulence, and over the weekend, you can sit in the driver's seat, even get a couple of power slides going. We've got GoPros that filmed me going around the Parabolica completely sideways. So actually, this is a really good dual purpose machine. So the Aston Martin DBX has in the past been Performance Car of the Year. And note, I did not say Performance SUV of the Year, I said Performance Car of the Year, because this SUV really does genuinely drive like a sports car. Now, this is a DBX on steroids. This is the DBX 707. That means it has 707 horsepower. And it is potentially one of the most rewarding cars to drive on the racetrack that we have in this lineup. It is so much fun. It responds to all your inputs. It rotates on the power. It just does everything you want it to be. And I, frankly, every time I get into this car, I just cannot believe how well it drives. I completely misjudged this car. It's not just a poser's car. It is a proper sports car. It's a car that you can actually get into and you can push and you can throw it around a racetrack and it complies with you and you can use all that 500 horsepower. And frankly, it's a bit of a revelation.
You know, the way it hug corners, and there was no drama as such. There was a lot of grip, and of course it has an electric drivetrain, so it'll just shoot out of corners. So we are really surprised by how well the MG performed, even in terms of lap times. We're not expecting it to be that great. On top of that, it's priced really well, so it has got the value for money factor as well. It has got the X factor as well.
Welcome to the BYD Sealion. And this car has a lot of promise. It gives you some indication of why BYD is taking Europe by storm. It's already taken China by storm. Everything is super well finished. It's really well styled. Everything is funky but functional at the same time. Last year we had the BYD Seal, which was super impressive. It was one of our best cars of 2024. So this car has a lot going for it. But when you push it on the track, this screen, which rotates vertically and horizontally depending on whatever orientation you want, kind of starts to move on its own when you go over the curbs. The car turns in really sharply and then the back end wants to come out, so you're kind of like crossed up and fighting it. So there's something happening in this electronics which is, at least let's put it this way, that the electronics and I are just not getting along. At least when you push it on the track. Maybe when you're driving it on the road, it's much more refined. We've tested this car before. It's won a group test for us. But when you push it, it was just kind of unwieldy and it just did not feel natural or progressive.
The BYD Sealion 7 is a sleek, premium crossover and it has well-appointed luxurious interiors. The range of over 500 kilometers, it is built more for comfort and practicality than outright speed. For somebody who's looking for a luxurious EV which doesn't break your bank, the BYD Sealion 7 makes for a great choice and ticks all the boxes.
So this is the Maruti Suzuki Dzire. Now this car was launched late last year, but it was after our jury meet. So it's here this year. And there's a reason why this is one of the best-selling cars in the market today. Look, it's honest about what it provides and what it is. It's got these really nice analog gauges. Everybody loves digital instrument clusters, but I much prefer clear analog gauges like these. The chassis is really good. This hard tech platform from Maruti feels really good. You can push it. Even the EMT gearbox, at least when you're driving hell for leather, actually feels really good. So it's not terribly fast. It's not a car that's going to blow your mind, but it's a car that delivers exactly what you want. And it drives really well. It's comfortable, it's spacious, it ticks all the boxes. And this is my first experience of being behind the wheel of a VinFast. And I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. When I first got in, this steering wheel is really small. It feels almost go-kart-like. And I was wondering why the steering wheel itself is so small and how it'll enable you to maneuver the car around the track or even the city for that instance. But it's got some kind of a progressive steering ratio. And when you're pushing it on the racetrack, it definitely feels like there's some kind of torque vectoring going on, where when you're mid-corner, it's controlling maybe applying the brakes on the outside wheels and enabling you to turn in that little bit sharper and that little bit faster. So there's a lot going on, as a result of which maybe when we came back into the pits after doing a couple of laps, the front brakes were really paying the price, because obviously all of those electronics are operating through the brakes. So there's a lot going on, but the initial impressions of the VinFast VF6 is that it's actually pretty sorted. Initial impressions are very positive, but I'm going to come to some of the negatives first. One is that the rear visibility is actually quite limited in both cars because of the styling, and it's got this very svelte sort of roofline. The rear windows is quite small. You've got 3 headrests in the back, so looking through the rearview mirror, you have quite limited visibility. Other than that, everything that you touch is actually really soft and very nice, especially the steering wheel. It's soft leather, it's nice to hold, it's a nice size, but the door handle, the one sort of piece that you're going to interact with every single time you open and close the door of this car and get in, is kind of hard plastic, and it's got these sharp edges, so that's not very nice. But other than that, I have to say the VF7 is much more impressive to drive even than the VF6. It's much faster. All the controls and everything is on the screen, so I managed to find something that says car mode, which is in the corner, and activate sport mode. So this, and in fact this car is much faster. It feels really good. It's got the same thing with the progressive steering ratio and that torque vectoring, so it goes exactly where you want it to go. It feels fast, it feels good, it feels pretty, it's a little bit arcade-like, because when you're going faster, it's got this sound which sounds like an aircraft taking off, so a little bit gimmicky, but entertaining and quite impressive. From inside the cabin, it just feels like it has a vibe. It's got this mocha brown kind of interior. It's got this baseball glove kind of cross stitching. It's got this really nice gray finish. It's got this sort of burnt copper kind of graphic on the instrument cluster and the screen. And it just feels like a really nice place to be. And being a product from the Volkswagen Group, when you get it and you push it, it feels perfectly at home. Full marks.
The Skoda Kodiaq is back in India, and this time it brings a lot to the table. It shares its base with the Tiguan R line, but then it feels a little more family friendly. It has 7 seats, a plush interior, and a long list of features. The Kodiaq skips on ADAS, and for the price it commands, it is a miss. But then on the track, it may not be the fastest SUV, but it has a great balance between performance, comfort, and capability.
The first time you take an EV out onto track after getting out of an internal combustion engine vehicle, it really feels like a different thing. It feels a little bit like the Starship Enterprise. It feels a little bit like you're entering warp speed, because you have that instant torque and that instant acceleration. Being a BMW, of course, the electronics are really well sorted. So it feels like there's a direct link between your throttle position, the steering wheel, and the amount of power that it gives you. Literally, as you unwind the steering wheel, it gives you full power. So in that sense, it's really well calibrated, but you can feel that weight, especially on turn in. You feel it take a set and then it accelerates, because it just has that inherent weight. And if you compare, just for instance, with the Tiguan R, it has a lot more power, but it's a little bit slower, because it just doesn't have that innate progressive kind of feel that allows you to push it. It's a little bit on-off.
It is the same iX1 that was offered earlier, but this is a long wheelbase. It loses out on a lot of features, and of course it's only single motor option. Now, in terms of its driving performance, it was quite decent. It doesn't feel like any other EV. The electronics are very sorted, and even in terms of ride quality on the road, it's phenomenal. It doesn't feel stiff or bumpy as compared to some of its rivals. Now, the drawback being that at the back you have a lot of leg room, but in terms of how you sit in the back, you sit with your knees pointing up. So even that space, it doesn't really bring the comfort that you want from an SUV. But overall, I think it is quite a decent package, especially given the price it's offered at.
So this is the Kia Carens Clavis EV. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, but what Kia is doing incredibly well is just cabin quality and cabin design and just style overall. I mean, it's got all the right colors, it's got all the right textures, it's got all the right shapes. It's spacious, it's comfortable, it's refined. It's actually really, really nice. The only thing is that when you actually take these cars out and you push them with an EV, you're just always fighting that wheel spin in the front. You're always struggling to put the power down. You're always trying to keep the front end in check because it's wanting to wash out because of the extra mass from the EV batteries. But for a car to drive every day that is spacious, that is comfortable, that is refined, that is stylish, that is good quality, I mean, Kia Carens Clavis EV checks all the boxes. The first thing that strikes you when you get into the 9E is just how much power it has. You touch the throttle pedal and the car shoots forward. The power delivery is a little bit conservative. Again, it's directly linked to steering angle. So the minute you've got a little bit of steering input that you've given to the car, it walks back the power delivery. So you really have to wait until the steering wheel is straight for it to give you full power. But it feels pretty good. It feels pretty progressive. It doesn't feel too heavy on the track. You can actually push it. So these cars have been engineered, of course, to be driven on the street, and it is super, super fast, and it is super refined, and it's got all the gizmos, and it's got all the screens, and actually this would be a really fun car to drive every day.
The only challenge for Mahindra is to keep all that tech and performance running smoothly and consistently, but it shows you how far the brand has come in the EV game.
So this is the Mahindra BE6, and I've been wanting to drive it at the BIC ever since its launch, when I saw Gaurav Gill doing a 170 km/h power slide at the launch on a skid pad. It feels really fast, it feels really good. The only thing is that I was playing with the electronics and I'm trying to turn the ESP off. It says ESP off, but it still comes back on and it restricts the power. So the key with these cars, like all these EVs, is that you need to have the steering wheel pointed pretty much straight, dead straight, before it'll give you full power. So I need to figure out how to turn the traction control and the electronics fully off so I can go out and do some power slides.
With a range of up to 682 kilometers, it is quite practical too. Thoroughly electric and quite enjoyable performance, the BE6 should be an EV you have to look out for if you want an electric vehicle in your garage.
All the other EVs that I got into, it seemed like there was a linear relationship between being able to put the power down and keeping the steering wheel straight. So you had even a little bit of steering angle and the EVs just wouldn't let you put the power down. But the EX30 is different. It's playful. It lets the driver modulate the throttle. It's got this small rectangular steering wheel. It's got this super Spartan cabin. And initially you think, well, they've kind of overdone it, but then you drive it and it's actually really super fun to drive. So surprisingly, one of the most fun EVs that we have here this year.
The Volvo EX30, well, it is a mixed bag because when you look at it, it is a hatchback and it is compromised in a lot of ways because there's not a lot of space in the back and they've gone back to all touchscreen controls. So it is not intuitive at first. And of course, there are a lot of features missing as well. And on top of that, we were expecting it to be priced around 30-35 lakh rupees, but it's now priced over 40 lakh rupees. So that makes it quite a lot more expensive than what we thought. So yes, it's a shame about the price and the practicality, but if you want your first EV to be fun and you want it to be quirky, I think the Volvo does a good job. But if you're looking for something more practical, I think again, the EX30 falls short.
On paper, it doesn't seem particularly impressive. It's got a 1.5 liter three-cylinder. Correction, it's got a 1.5 liter three-cylinder turbo petrol engine, and it sends all its power to the front wheels. So it doesn't feel very BMW-like. But when you get out onto a racetrack and you push it, the driving dynamics of this car are exactly what that blue and white propeller on the steering wheel sort of lends you to assume that they would be. It goes exactly where you point it. You can carry a lot of speed. It's got a surprising amount of grip. It's got no torque steer, and it's actually a really, really fun car to drive.
The only downer being the space at the rear. For the price it commands, the BMW 2GC could have done better in terms of space and practicality.
Yes, you can take a Toyota Land Cruiser onto a racetrack. Now, of course, this is the ultimate luxury off-roader, but the fact is it's going to be driven on the road far more than it's going to be driven in the dirt. And so it makes sense to see if it can corner, brake, steer, accelerate all of those things that you're potentially going to have to do, let's say, in an emergency evasive maneuver. And what I can tell you is that this car actually excels when you push it. You wouldn't believe it. Of course, it's got body roll. Of course, it sways and it rolls, but it actually follows your instructions to the T, and it is surprisingly good.
In our previous issue, we just compared it with the old 80 series, and the Land Cruiser was just phenomenal in all environments. So yes, as an outright SUV, it has got everything. In terms of ride and handling also, it is quite balanced. Yes, at the back, it's not as spacious as, let's say, a Mercedes Maybach GLS, but in terms of its outright appeal, you know, the aura that the GRS has, well, I think it's unparalleled. And the only shame is that it's priced exorbitantly, because it nearly is 2.5 CR. So that's the only problem with the GRS.
The first time I drove the previous generation Camry was at the World Car Awards jury meet in LA a couple of years ago. That wasn't a hybrid, it had a V6 engine. It didn't have the CVT gearbox, but it was really, really fantastic from behind the wheel. It felt like a revelation that year, and it felt like the Akio Toyoda effect, because he's a racer. He knows how these cars should drive and feel, and I feel like that DNA and that genesis has been carried forward with the brand new Toyota Camry. But if you do get out and drive it, even the Camry hybrid, it actually feels really, really good from behind the wheel. I still don't like the CVT gearbox, but other than that, this is actually a car that if you find yourself in the driver's seat, you can actually enjoy the driving experience. This is the first internal combustion engine car I'm driving after a slew of EVs, and I have to tell you, it feels so much nicer when you push it on the track. It's so much more progressive. It's listening to what I'm doing. It doesn't have electronics that is overruling every single move that I'm making, or that think that they know better than the driver. And so in that sense, of course, it's a BMW. The driving position is perfect. The driving dynamics are perfect, and it feels really, really good. It doesn't have a lot of power, but in terms of chassis dynamics, in terms of driving dynamics, it is really well sorted. And it gives you some indication of the fact that internal combustion engine cars have been developed over so many years, a century, and they've really been honed to perfection. The EVs, every single year that we drive them, every 12 months that we test them and we push them like this on the track, they're progressive and they are really coming on in leaps and bounds. But at the end of the day, the longer development time that the ICE cars have been allowed over this last century really tells when you bring a car out like a BMW X3 on the track and you push it to its limit.
It is quite expensive if you look at it. It's nearly 90 lakh rupees, or nearly 92 or 93 lakh rupees on road. So for a mid-size luxury SUV, yes, the prices have gone up, but the interior quality is not that great. We have driven that car. We've also done an exhaustive comparison test with its rivals. So there, in terms of that luxury feel, well, the BMW definitely is lagging. The problem with this particular car is that with the X3, BMW is not offering powerful engine options. So the diesel is just about adequate. The petrol is also like that. We have the diesel on test here. So again, in terms of drivability, it's a great engine, and on the road also it's quite good. But in terms of that BMW factor, the thrills you seek from a BMW, well, that's lacking, and I think it deserves more power, because that chassis can definitely handle a lot more.
The one thing that was a revelation for me in this past lap when we were pushing the M9 was the fact that if you had taken the same vehicle and you had an ICE variant of it, I feel like the EV platform suits this car so much better. Of course, in terms of sound, in terms of refinement, even in terms of power delivery, but in a car like this, which is so large, it's actually because the center of gravity is low, because you have all the batteries and really the weight set in the floor of this car, which means that it actually handles really well. The electronics are well sorted, the power delivery is well sorted. It drove much, much, much better than I expected, except for the fact that I actually want to be lounging back there rather than be sitting in the driver's seat.
The BYD Emax 7 is all about space, comfort and practicality. It has 7 seats, decently comfortable interior and a range of over 530 kilometers. On the racetrack, It was surprisingly agile and was just a second behind the BYD Sealion 7 in terms of timing. If you're somebody who prioritizes comfort and wants to go the long distance, then the BYD E-Max 7 should be your choice of EV.
Maybe you can tell by the smile on my face, this is a super, super fun car to drive. When you bring it out onto a racetrack, you plant your foot and you pretty much, for the entire back section of the BIC, you barely lift your foot off the throttle pedal. This thing goes exactly where you point it. It is fantastic. It gets full marks from me.
If there's one car that I could take home from this lineup, it has to be the Volkswagen Golf GTI. It is your everyday performance car. You could drive it to work, run errands, and then just let loose on a winding road. On the track, it was really quick, it felt sharp and precise, and it was glued to the tarmac.
Everyone loved driving it because everyone can just get into the driver's seat and go as fast as they can, because that thing, it doesn't feel like a front wheel drive car. There is no understeer. It doesn't even screech its tires. It's black magic, to be very frank. And on top of that, of course, it is a hatchback. There is that practicality. You can drive it daily as well. The ground clearance is also okay.
So anytime you bring a Volkswagen to the track, you get a sense of how finely engineered these cars are. When you're behind the wheel, everything just feels right. Everything from these seats, which are manually operated, and I actually love that because they're lighter, they're not complicated. You can set the perfect driving position and it just feels like a really well-honed driver's car, and you can really push it and enjoy the driving experience.
The engine itself could have had a little more punch, provided the fact that it has R-line badging. So yes, apart from that, the car felt really good and composed on the track.
So that was the motley crew of four-wheelers competing for the coveted Best of 2025 awards. We hope you guys liked the evaluation process and had as much fun as we did putting them through its paces on track. Now, I'd request you to stay tuned as we'll bring you the winners and Performance Car of the Year very soon. With that, do tell us what were your top 3 picks of contenders for the Best of 2025. So, if you guys liked the video, do hit the like button, subscribe to us for regular updates, and share this with your friends who are looking to buy the latest and greatest four-wheelers in the market. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.